Hi, this is Zach with Worn & Wound, and today we're taking a look at the BOLDR Expedition. This is a new watch from BOLDR, who are a brand that's been around for maybe 2 years or so, and have focused on doing kind of interesting sporty watches at extremely affordable price points. They've had a few Kickstarter campaigns. This is one that will be launched via Kickstarter. This watch, it's just a very appealing watch that they've made. It's kind of a new direction for them somewhat. It's a little bit more of an outdoorsy sport feel to it. The name Expedition obviously indicating that. And while I honestly am not 100% sure, I don't think they've ever used a Swiss automatic movement before. So this watch will feature an SW200 movement in it, very good movement, ETA 2024 equivalent, but will have a retail price of $699, which is just a crazy low price. Frankly, I would almost argue that they're undervaluing this watch a little bit, but their business is their business and they can do with it as they wish. But it's also just an extremely appealing watch with a really nicely balanced design. It comes in a bunch of different colors. Here we have blue with a matte case, a bead blasted case, which is a really, really nice combo. The blue itself is a beautiful blue. It has a really nice matte finish to it. I know matte dials are very common, obviously, but there's a quality to this one that just feels very nice, and the tone of blue is really appealing too. It has a touch of green in it, so it's like a little bit teal. It's nice to see a blue that isn't sunray. I feel like a lot of blues go that route, and they become a little bit ostentatious. This is just much more wearable, has a little bit of kind of a grayness to it. The case is a 41. They actually said 42 to me, but I measured it at 41, so I'm calling it 41. 41 millimeter diameter, 47.8 millimeter lug to lug, about 14 millimeters thick to the top of a domed sapphire crystal. A little bit tall, but it doesn't feel tall on the wrist. And I have to say the size works really well. 41 millimeters, maybe a touch, or 42 as a case may be. It sounds a little bit larger than I'd want for kind of a day-to-day sport watch, but it fits very nicely on my wrist. So the second I put it on, it really kind of went out the window. I feel like it's a very easy to wear, well-proportioned watch. I think if it had been smaller, some of these proportions might have been lost. It might have reduced the size of some of the numerals. And it also works well because you have a rotating internal bezel, which I imagine adds some complexity to the internal design as well, meaning that you need a little bit more space. So that is an outstanding feature of this watch, as well as that it does have this dual crown design. You have the time crown here at 4, and then you have the internal bezel crown up at 2. They did a great job on these crowns. They're knurled on the outside, so they have a really nice texture to them. And then the internal bezel crown here has this great orange line around it, so very, very easy to distinguish the two apart, and just a really nice detail. So, it's very rare to have color on the case itself, so I think that's very cool. I'm really excited just to see that as an interesting detail. This is a screw-down crown, pops out, and then it is a bidirectional, non-friction bezel, so that all works very well. Looking now at the dial, though, and what it actually features, so you have you have internal bezel, and then you have the dial surface. The dial I find it very appealing. It plays off of military designs, plays a little bit off of explorer designs, feels unique somehow, even though there's a lot of familiar elements to it. So you have very large numerals for the even numbers, 12, 2, 4 is gone for the date, 6, 8, 10. And then you have rectangles, loomed rectangles for the other hours. There's also loomed squares at those larger numerals. So you have all of that going, lots of just details. Then you have a military or a 24-hour track for the alternating. So you have 13, 15, 17, 19, 20, and 23. Not necessary, but I feel like it works here because this is a very kind of technical looking dial, and I feel like the additional numbers just kind of speak to this adventure style, the expedition concept. Looking at the internal bezel now, it actually has two different indexes on it, which can be a little confusing at a glance, but once you get used to how it works, it's very straightforward. But it's a cool design. So there's actually two surfaces. There's a chamfered inner surface and then a flat top surface. The flat top surface is more of a kind of a classic bezel design, has numerals at intervals of 5, a little triangle at the origin. But then on the chamfer, you actually have a compass bezel, which not 100% sure how that would work with a watch doesn't have a 24-hour hand. You can use compasses using a 24-hour hand. It's a complicated thing, but you can look that up. So here I'm not really sure how that would work. It does obviously work with the theme, though, of Expedition. The one thing that's confusing, so you have northeast, southwest, obviously at 45-degree angles, but then you have marks in between those. So there's 3 marks in between them. And that just doesn't align with anything else. So that doesn't align with the time. So that's just a little weird. Like if you were to take a look at a glance and you saw that white mark, that's not 05. That's like 3.5 or something. And then 05 is over there. So that you just have to kind of get used to, look past it, which takes all but 5 minutes of wearing for you to comprehend. Quickly now at the hands, you have syringe hands, brush or matte steel, looks good, has a little bit of a vintage touch to it. Nice kind of bit of burnt orange here on the second hand. It all just works, it has that field vibe to it. It just comes together very well. And I think that, the real nice thing about this watch is just how it wears. It's just very comfortable, has a really nice kind of masculine, sporty feel to it, but doesn't feel overly aggressive. It's not like doesn't look weaponized or anything like that. It really feels like a good, outdoorsy watch, which I personally find just very appealing. The strap it comes on is kind of heavyweight canvas strap. It's canvas wrapped around leather, has an appealing look to it, big rivets here for the holes. Just works well with the aesthetic. I happen to think this pairing is very nice too. This kind of silvery gray with the blue just works out nicely, looks good with a blue shirt as I have on here. So yeah, the BOLDR Expedition, it'll be on Kickstarter for less than $6.99 obviously, but the retail price of $6.99 it'll end up as is an extremely fair price I think for what you're getting here. Just making it a very appealing watch, so check it out.